So we're in Gallery 8 in the Ashmolean Now exhibition. Well, basically, we're still hanging, actually. Daniel, tell me a bit more about the new works that you made for the Ashmolean Now exhibition, the Immortals series, which you can see here.
Yeah, so these works that you can see are a continuation of a theme. I'm looking at ancient artefacts and antiquity, some of which I've discovered in the Ashmolean Museum. A lot of the things I look at is to do with emperors being immortalised in their armour. I thought it was a perfect name for the show, really.
I know that you were looking at some sculptures of deities.
Yeah, that's right. I remember visiting the Anthropology Museum in Mexico City and being overwhelmed by these huge pre-Columbian deities and gods that made of stone, and they were just overwhelmingly massive. And it really felt as if I was walking amongst the gods. You know, I always think that the Greeks and the Romans, their depictions of gods were really strange because they just looked like us, a beautiful woman and a beautiful man, whereas with the pre-Columbian gods and goddesses, they were monstrous.
Coming to the Ashmolean, looking at works in the Ashmolean's collection, what did you enjoy most during this journey?
Just the array of statues. My works obviously operate as paintings, but really I see myself as a mixed media artist because of all the material that I put on the surface, and actually how I work I think is quite sculptural. Going into the cast gallery really excited me. I'm really interested in this aesthetic of erosion and how time decays the object. So missing limbs, this patina you get from erosion over time.
You're also looking at other kind of fantastical figures. So tell me a bit more about the figures that we can see in your paintings.
It's very important for me that they're not human. Then there's no muse, there's no sitter, there's no actual person behind the figure. It's an amalgamation of historical references.
Figuration, of course, is an important aspect of your work, but abstraction is also key. So the works do feel very abstract. Tell me a bit more about your relationship to abstraction.
I like it when it is in this sort of middle point where you have to kind of work to find the figure. But again, I need the figurative motif for the abstraction to work within the canvas. You know, often I'll go too figurative and I'll be like, oh no, that's too recognisable. It looks too much like, you know, David or a depiction of Hercules or Zeus. It doesn't offer any more to that conversation.
So you're looking at these kind of ancient objects and at these artifacts. But I think it's also through color that you create still these really contemporary paintings.
It's about making a fresh, new take on something.
And that's why we find these strong blue colors in your work, and there's almost kind of pink color.
The neon pink is something that I've always used, and it's actually spray paint. For me, when it comes to choosing materials, there's no hierarchy. So thick impastoed oil can quite happily sit next to a line of spray paint or a drawn line in charcoal.
Tell me a bit more about the process of painting in your studio, because that's quite well, it's not chaotic, but it's quite wild as well, isn't it?
I think it is chaotic. Yeah, it's they start on the floor and I'm spilling ink to try and find a figure, and then with charcoal I'll draw scratchy charcoal lines and then throw more paint at it, get it back on the floor, tread sand into the composition. I think the figure itself is as a motif becomes a framework for me to experiment with all the materials. It controls the chaos.
And collage is also an important aspect in your work, isn't it?
The collage element came by chance, really, where I just kept making a mistake and I couldn't paint over the mistake. So I simply cut a piece out and stuck it on. So it was quite nice because it was kind of like adding and erasing at the same time. And it just freshened the whole canvas up, and it gave this kind of breathing space to the work that it really needed. Painting is such a joyful thing, and my work, I think it looks at the earliest paintings depicted in caves, and it goes through modernism, abstract expressionism, even Cobra, art brut. There's so many different moments in painting history that I'm inspired by. Of course they're finished, but I want them to feel a little bit unfinished so that the viewer can bring themselves into the work.
So the Ashmolean Now exhibition will be on for quite a while. What would you like visitors to take away from their visit?
I very much hope that they can see there's a relationship to the museum's collection. And you know, I always seem to look back throughout history to find inspiration, but also I'm trying to push painting forward.
They're really strong and great in the space. I just wanted to say thank you for coming to the Ashmolean and creating new works for the Ashmolean Now exhibition.
It's my pleasure.
Thank you.